Welcome one, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and hearing about how great it is to drink beer out of a Birfield, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and gentle ladies. My name is Tyler, and joining me in the Snail Trail 4x4 studio is Mr. Jimmy Birfield Jet. How are you doing, Mr. Birfield?
I'm well. I did not break a Birfield, though.
That is true.
I do have Birfields on my vehicle, but I did not break one, nor did I drink a beer out of one.
You know, we could probably
hope he cleaned it first.
Kind of.
Ugh.
Kind of, sort of. It was kind of neat because you got this, you got to drink your beer or your drink, in my case, the Mango White Claw. And you got kind of like this chapstick at the same time. So,
oh gosh. You're like, oh, I'm greasy and I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great combo.
Yeah.
So if you drink out of it enough times, the grease goes away.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a little bit here. But it did make me think. We have a cracked Birfield over there from Mr. Beer Andy.
Yes, we do.
That we could turn into a studio chalice.
A goblet.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay.
We can get some hub gears.
Yeah, I mean, but that's going to be like a shot.
Yeah, it's not as big as a Land Cruiser Burfield.
No, definitely
but
not.
It's still enough to take shots from or something. So
yeah, we got some old elk sitting right there too.
We do. The studio elk. Oh man, we got a lot of Fireball in the fridge too.
Oh,
oh man, thanks Sean.
Yeah, oh, was that? Yeah, okay, we'll blame it on Sean.
He did. He brought all that Fireball in there over.
Oh,
so
and it's still there.
It's still there. It hasn't been touched.
I'm not really the biggest fan of cinnamon. Fireball's just too much cinnamon. Like even those hot, what are those hot things?
What are those called?
Tamales.
Hot tamales.
Hot tamales. Too much cinnamon in my opinion. French toast with a little bit of cinnamon, fantastic.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Do you do the same thing with garlic?
No. I can eat just eat like an apple of a clove of garlic or something like that. I can devour garlic. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think cinnamon's one of those things that's like, it's great, and then there's a point where there's too much of it. And Fireball's the too much level.
Gotcha.
Just like those hot tamales or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Too much. I mean, I can tolerate them or eat them if I must.
Yeah.
If I have to drink Fireball, I can.
See,
if I can choose another option, I'll go that way.
Gotcha. I can't have Fireball on its own anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since Meadow Lake, Sierra Trek 2020.
Was it 2020? It was. I think it was 2020. Yeah.
That was a good year.
That was a good year. I got up close and personal with a bear box that night, and ever since
that episode came out, didn't it?
They did. They launched it on their Patreon.
Yeah.
Yep.
But never shared it with anybody else to publish.
Nope. They held it
all to themselves.
Yep. You know another episode they're holding all to themselves?
The episode we did in the Taj Mahal with Trail Chasers and Cruising to Camp and Wheeling Wine and Whiskey and Snail Trail 4x4.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should let them record.
No, yeah, they've lost recording privileges for sure. So they're never allowed to record group podcasts anymore.
Nope.
So because apparently if they record it, they never release it.
True. There's probably a good reason they don't release some of those though.
That one would be great to release though. Oh come on.
It would have to be behind closed doors.
Yeah. Oh geez. Anyways, Thursday. Today is Thursday for everybody. That means we're in August still, which means we have a giveaway for the month of August. It is
what is it?
We have a 6-ton tube bender. It's from Affordable Bender. Tom over there at Affordable Bender is a great guy that jumped on board with supporting the podcast and doing something cool for the listeners. So, no, what are you doing? Jimmy, put that away. What are you doing? I don't like Jimmy gets like this little twinkle in his eye from time to time when he's doing something, and I don't like it. It scares me. Okay, gotcha. If that's what you're doing, I support it. You took the whole thing. Jimmy just took out a hotel bottle sized of Fireball and dumped it all in his coffee.
You got me thinking.
It does work great in coffee. I will give it that. So
yes, it's not just cinnamon now.
Yeah, it's coffee and cinnamon, or they also work great in mochas.
I bet. And a wee bit of oat milk. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so Tom over at Affordable Bender.
Oh yeah.
Is that good?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
You might need to drive to lunch.
That's fair. Tom over at Affordable Bender is a really cool dude. So we're gonna get him on the podcast here, probably early September-ish, and we'll talk about tube bending with him and kind of fabrication in general. What are some tips and tricks if you're getting into bending tube and notching tube and all sorts of fun stuff. So we'll have him on board. So thank you, Tom, for donating a bender for the listeners, or I guess for the snail squad. Yep.
Yeah, a bender and a die of your choice.
Yeah, man. That's pretty exciting. So you have, I believe he's got 5 dies to choose from that with your order. So when you place your order, I guess technically
when you submit,
we'll figure it out. When you submit what you're looking for,
what you're looking for through us or through Tom, we'll get it figured out. But whatever way you submit it, you get to choose or you can have a die of your choice.
Yep.
So,
well, awesome. So we'll be doing that, probably announcing the winner first or second week of September, so that you guys have until August 30th, August 35th. 31 days in August.
There's 31 days in August.
Dang it. Okay. August 31st, you have until the end of the day that day in order to get signed up over on iRate 4x4 for the giveaway tier under the Snail Trail 4x4 forum in order to get entered for the Affordable Bender.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rad.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. I still haven't bent anything because I want to swap out the 6-ton jack, because I also blew up my 6-ton bottle jack, or Lee did, or Hussman did. One of those 3 people this last weekend. So I need to take the 6-ton bottle jack out of the Affordable Bender, the 12-ton bottle jack out of my shop press, put that in the Affordable Bender, put the 6-ton bottle jack into Kermit.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Good times.
That sounds, I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about things leading up to Barrett?
Yeah, I think that
do we have anything else we want to cover before we go to Barrett?
Yeah, let's talk about leading up to Barrett Lake.
Okay.
Because I had some work to do.
Shall we conclude with, we made it off the trail with stabbed tires, so now what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah, right. Yeah, what has been the last personal updates from us? Do we even know what we talked about?
Well, we talked our last real updates was the glue tread we got off the trail.
Okay, we talked about the third day a little bit and getting back home and everything.
Yep.
Gotcha. So I got back home from glue tread, went immediately up to Sierra Trek that same day. We'll be talking about Sierra Trek and how that went next Thursday.
Yep, we got some fun interviews on Monday, and then we're gonna follow up on Thursday with our personal stuff of what we did at Sierra Trek.
Yep. So next week is kind of the Sierra Trek recap, but yeah, that kind of begs the question, because we got back from Sierra Trek, and then that next weekend, I was going out to Barrett Lake.
Yeah. Yeah, we had multiple back-to-back-to-back trips.
Oh my God.
Which my shop is super pissed at me.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention the fact that it has just house stuff cluttered in it now, but it's been, I was wheeling Thursday, Friday, Saturday on the Rubicon, went home, had to do a little bit of work on Bobcat, so made a mess in the shop. Went wheeling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on,
the glue tread trip.
On the glue tread trip.
Yeah.
And then had some issues coming home after the glue tread trip, and then I've been working the last more or less week on week and a half or 2 weeks on Bobcat to get it ready for what is now going to be coming up Rubithon for us. Even though we're a few weeks back in the timeline of podcast land. So yeah, the shop is a freaking disaster right now.
Nice.
I'm semi excited. Like I said, at another point, like I'm somewhat excited. I think I said on the Mondays morning episode to have a full week in the shop. I'm just going to do panels, get ahead on panels, clean. I think I could spend a solid day cleaning my shop.
Oh, probably.
And organizing it.
Yeah.
It's just a disaster.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm looking forward to next week, kind of like what you're alluding to, having just kind of an actual full week, 7 days.
Yeah. Or 5 days.
Well, for me, 7. I'm not doing anything that weekend. Of not having anything in the calendar.
Yeah, because you had Glue Tread, Sierra Trek. That weekend you went to Barrett, and then the weekend for us coming up is Rubithon.
Yeah, so I'm going on 3 weeks here where I've only really had no days, really.
Yeah.
Because
over the last 3 weeks, you would have had 4 days in your office.
With Morphlate stuff, right? Yeah. And that all that time is dedicated to Morphlate and staying caught up on customer service stuff. And we're on back order right now on compressors and kits.
Yeah.
So
I heard that on the Total Off-Road podcast.
Yeah. It's things kind of exploded this summer with Morphlate. I had projected a certain amount of growth, and we doubled that growth that I had projected for. So
I feel sorry for you, but not really.
I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, right? If you're running a business and you can't keep inventory in stock because you're not projecting properly, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So anyways, we're going to be on back order next week. So we won't have this crazy dash around with our head, running around with our heads getting cut off. And we can kind of get caught up on things on all levels, I think. So
definitely. We left off from the Glue Tread episode.
Yep.
With us driving home. You drove home. You drove to Fresh Pond on patched tires.
I did.
And then loaded it up on the trailer and took it back down to your house.
Yep.
I drove home with my steering coming apart.
Yeah, that's right.
And going about 50 miles an hour down the freeway because I have a weird vibration.
Yeah.
And and I think that was really, for the most part, about it. Both of us made it home safely.
We did. We lived to tell another day.
Yeah, you ran up to Sierra Trek. I took a day or so and then came following up. So here we are after Trek, and we'll talk about Trek next week, like we said. What things did you have to get ready real quick to go to Barrett? Well, I chose not to go to Barrett because I wanted a little bit of a break from wheeling. 2, I had a broken truck. 3, I chose to go see some college mates that I haven't seen in a long time. One of them just got a house in the Bay Area. Like, I just bought a house in the Bay Area. I can't believe it. But he works for Apple.
Why would you do that?
He makes lots of money.
Okay.
He got a house in the Bay Area, so we had a housewarming party. A good group of core of my college friends were all coming together, and I haven't seen this group of friends get together in quite a while. So,
gotcha.
I've been out wheeling with you, and I see Hussman every once in a while, and I talk to Lee quite often, and I don't know who else went, but sorry, no offense, but I wanted to see some people I haven't seen in a while. So
yeah, no, you get to see me every week. So I'm kind of surprised you're not like, hey, let's take a little bit more time in between recording so I don't have to see you.
Let's just record 6 episodes, so I only see you once every 3 weeks.
There we go. That's what I was expecting. It's been it's just been a whirlwind. So getting ready for Barrett Lake, and Barrett Lake was interesting because it opened 3 weeks ago as of that time in the trip.
Yeah, and you were out there doing trail maintenance.
I was out there doing trail maintenance, and the secretary wanted to go do Barrett Lake. She's never done Barrett Lake before.
Oh, okay.
And I had this weekend where I didn't have anything planned.
Nice.
Which has been the first one since May, maybe.
I know.
And so I was like, hey, I've got a free weekend. let's go do Barrett Lake. It's something you want to do. I don't know how long it's going to be open this season. So let's just go. We have this opportunity. Let's do it.
Nice. Okay.
And she wanted it to be just us. So one rig, me and her and the dog out at Barrett Lake. Oops. And I was like, okay, cool. And so Lee messages me and he goes, hey, I've got this weekend free. Let's go do Barrett Lake. And I was just like, haha, yeah, that's funny. You're going to take your Land Cruiser or your Lexus into Barrett Lake. He goes, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, yeah, I'm already kind of get this, the group set up. He was going to, it was actually Cha from Power Tank.
Yeah.
And Tyler from Power Tank.
Yeah. I don't think Cha is affiliated with Power Tank.
Oh, he was at Overland Expo in Power Tank attire.
He was there. I could be I could be mistaken, but
okay.
He was there doing photo and video stuff for them. But I don't know if he's technically, like, air quotes, an employee of them. I think he's just good friends and hangs out with them a lot.
Okay.
And is affiliated with them because of friendship.
Gotcha.
More than employment.
Okay, gotcha. But he was...
I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what his relationship is with Power Tank.
He came out the day you left on the Power Tank run that we did a few years ago. He showed up the next day and ran Strawberry with us.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and I think he's just a friend, you know.
Well, cool. Anyways, it was his idea.
Maybe sponsored. I don't,
It was his idea to run Barrett Lake, and Tyler wanted to go as well.
Okay.
And so
Tyler from Power Tank.
Power Tank Tyler.
Yep. Okay.
So it was going to be Power Tank Tyler, Cha, and Lee. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to be out on the trail already. I already have plans to be going out this weekend with just the secretary and I. So it might be safer if we just all travel together. And so we kind of put that into the mix, and then it opened up to Nick as well with the Gladiator.
Yeah. You extended it to me.
And I extended it to you.
I accepted, and then I declined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it also got opened up to 2 other people.
Hustle Nuts.
Like 3 other people then. Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
Hussman, a guy named Anthony, and a guy named Roe, who I've never met either one of them before.
I don't know if I've met him, yeah.
Anthony has a pickup very similar to Bobcat, just red.
Okay.
And then Roe has a 3-linked 80 Land Cruiser.
Okay.
So ended up...
Black?
White.
No.
Yeah. So it ended up Cha and Power Tank Tyler dropped out. Nick couldn't make it. So it ended up being me, Lee, Hussman, Anthony, and Roe.
Okay.
And...
we were supposed to, and the intern,
and the secretary and the intern. Yep. And then Lee brought his kids.
Okay.
So
Mini
Lee's. Yep. And so in order to get ready for the trip, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna make it because I had to clearance my cross member a little bit more because on the Rubicon glue tread trip. The cross member, the double cardan, was contacting my cross member a little bit every once in a while,
with some
during articulation,
body movement and articulation and transfer cases, rotating and stuff. Okay,
so I figured I was like, I'll just kind of let it self clear because it wasn't binding. It was just kind of going thunk, 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 thunk every once in a while.
Sure.
I think when the suspension compressed is when it happened.
You should have glued sandpaper on it.
And that's what the husband said too.
He's so smart.
I know, right? So I didn't get to do that.
But what did you need to do?
I needed to replace my tires because my tires all had holes in them.
Right.
And
so
patches.
What did you replace them with?
So we are right now officially announcing a new partnership with the podcast.
Yes.
With Yokohama Tires.
Whoop, whoop. Mm-hmm. Hold on. I got one for that. Where is it? It's right here.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
So this has been this has been in the works for a while now. Pretty much since King of the Hammers this year.
Actually, yeah. Or slightly before.
Yeah. We had, when I was going through my tire crisis and looking into, different types of tires and what I was going to do after the IROCs, I ended up getting the Patagonias used, the 40-inch ones just to kind of try out and see if I liked them because we had a listener write in gave us kind of like a compound measurements data.
Yeah,
breakdown of different compounds of different tires and kind of which ones are softer, which ones are harder when you first get them versus 6 months down the road or whatever that time frame was that he had.
I don't think he had a down the road. I think he just had a measurement of how thick it was.
It wasn't how thick, it was how the softness of the compound.
Right, but it was at a brand new tire that hasn't been driven, how soft is it? Mm-hmm. And then at a halfway worn tire, how soft is it?
Gotcha.
But
that's what it was.
But the thing that I believe what that was missing from his was like how old are the tires at that point, or how many miles have gone on those tires at that point, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
You didn't. There was this variable that we had no idea about how old the tires.
Yeah, we didn't have date codes on the tires or how many miles they'd been driven. Just that they were worn down halfway, and this is how soft they were.
Yeah, how soft are they still?
Yeah, that's true. So anyways, that
research led you to want to try the Patagonias.
Yes, because they're a little bit of a softer compound. They're not as hard as some of the other tires out there. But in that list that the guy had sent us was also the Yokohama tires, and specifically the Geolanders.
The Geolander MTs?
The MTs, yep.
Yeah, because I think they're even... the tires that I have on Charlotte, the Tacoma, I believe are Geolander ATs.
Correct.
So the Geolander line kind of spans a few different versions.
Yeah, they have the all-terrain, the mud terrain, and the extreme terrain.
Right.
And
but I think they have a Geolander AT and a Geolander XAT.
Oh, okay.
And then the Geolander MT and then the Geolander XMT. Because I have the XATs on Charlotte.
Gotcha.
So they have
a nice selection of options there, which is
of
nice.
Geolanders, right? Like normal MTs or ATs, and then the extreme ATs or MTs. So
gotcha. So there's a lot of options there. The cool thing that kind of originally caught my attention was the softer compound, right? And so in off-roading, typically a softer compound gets you better grip on whatever surface you're on.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. And so I was like, we do have a lot of granite here. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a little bit more grip on granite surfaces. And the Patagonias, when I had them, they gripped fantastic out on all the granite that we have in the Rubicon and everywhere else. They were really good. But I was not happy with how the Patagonias did in snow.
Right.
They were still one of the worst snow tires that I've ever encountered.
Well, couldn't the softer compound couldn't it freeze or get harder in the snow easier?
It does get more brittle in the snow. But that wasn't really my beef with them in the snow, because all tires are going to get colder and harder in the snow, right? My beef with the Patagonias in the snow, and specifically the 40-inch Patagonias, is that the tread blocks are a lot closer together than the 38s and smaller.
Yeah, which was an interesting thing that I don't think anybody's ever said or talked about. But once we brought it up, everybody's like, yep, that's how it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
What?
It just doesn't make any sense. You would think a 40-inch tire wants more performance off-road and less priority on street performance, because tread blocks closer together typically gives you better street performance, on-road performance. So I was like, it just made no sense to me. I was not happy with how they performed. They didn't clear tread very well because there just wasn't enough space there as the tire flexes in snow for the tread blocks to separate and release the snow from it. So you maintain clear tread and better traction in the snow. Anyways, they weren't doing that, and I wasn't happy about it. And on one of the trips, it was a trip I went out with the Tacoma powered and 4Runner powered guys. One of the guys had the Geolander MT out in the snow.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with how it was performing. It was performing and behaving exactly what I want a snow tire to behave like.
Okay.
And I was like, that's interesting. So that kind of caught my attention too. Softer compound caught my attention. Having it in 40-inch flavors caught my attention.
Right.
And
because we were talking to another company, but they didn't make 40s.
Correct. Yep.
So we were kind of like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't have the options we're looking for. And so, yeah, kind of all this had been catching our attention, right? About Yokohama tires. And then out at King of the Hammers, my booth, Morflate's booth, was set up right next to the Yokohama trailer.
Pretty much, like almost right behind you was Yokohama.
Yeah. And so being able to sit there and talk with a couple of the Yokohama reps throughout the week, see their tires in person, get to really kind of just look at the differences between, the tread patterns, how deep the lugs go, the voids on the tread, which was really interesting compared to other options out there. And then the Capreras parked their Ultra 4 cars in the booth a couple of days.
Yep. That thing was awesome.
That car was amazing, and it was beat to hell.
It was.
He hit something, I think we talked about it. He hit something very hard on the front end of his axle.
It bent the protection around the full hydro setup in a funky, weird angle.
Yeah.
But supposedly, he obviously hit something in the front, not on the tires, but supposedly he didn't have any tire issues the whole race.
He didn't have any tire issues, and the tires looked abused too.
Yeah, they did.
They were beat up, and he didn't have to swap a tire the whole race. And this was Chase Caprera's car, the 4800 car that they have. And so I was like, that's fucking impressive. And so after all that, I was like, you know what? I think Yokohama just kind of moved to the top of my preference list. Yeah. And I started talking with you about it, and you're like, yeah, I'm really impressed with everything I've seen too. And so that's when we started reaching out to, we got an inside connection with Yokohama, reached out to them, and we started the conversations shortly after King of the Hammers.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. And the discussion went for a little while, and it took a little bit of time, and they have a lot of stuff there. Yokohama's a huge company.
Yeah.
They have a lot of stuff going on. And so in a way they kind of said, hold off for a second. Like we need to figure out life.
Yeah.
And then we were able to reconnect with them, semi recently within a month or so. And we figured out life on both ends and figured out a good relationship. And we have some, touch points that we need to get to, and they want us to show off their tires and show what it can do. And luckily for us, they had 40-inch tires in the market are nearly impossible to get.
Yeah.
But they had somebody that had some spares and got you in contact with them.
Yep.
And you got some 40s for Kermit, and they sent me out some 37s for Bobcat.
Yeah. So we're sitting here. That was my to-do list, really, in the 4 days before Barrett Lake, was to get the Patagonias off of my race lines and get the Yokohamas onto my race lines, and then get all my fenders and everything clearanced. Because brand new 40-inch Yokohamas, which they measure 40 inches, which is really nice. There's a lot of companies out there that sell 37, 38, 40-inch tires that don't measure those measurements. With the full tread on them, they were rubbing pretty good in a couple spots.
Right.
So I had to cut about 2 inches out of the front of my sliders and recap them.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I had to pound in my firewall, and I had to cut the seam out of the firewall there, and then pound in the firewall about an inch and a half, 2 inches as well. And they're still rubbing ever so slightly, but it was I was still working on finishing everything up Thursday night before leaving Friday morning to go to Barrett. As of Thursday night, I wasn't sure if we were going to make it to Barrett or not.
Wow. Okay.
So
yeah, and the goal was to meet at Barrett at like noon.
Yep. Which Anthony, Rowe, and Hussman were right on time, if not early. And I was still at home at noon with Lee.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
With Lee.
Yep. So Lee stopped at my house on his way up from the Bay Area. We were going to caravan up to Barrett. And we had a really busy morning, and the secretary still had to work. And so I was put in charge of everything.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got to pack, I got to get everything ready for packing. I got to do the grocery shopping and the food prepping, and it just takes a lot longer to do when you're the only person to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, we ended up leaving my house at like noon 30.
Okay, that's not terrible. I mean, well, you're supposed to, it's 2 hours drive, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. It put us, 2 hours or so behind schedule. And so I texted Hussman. I was like, dude, don't wait for us. Like, I texted him around 11 or 11:30. And I was like, I still haven't left my house. Like, just go. Don't wait up for us. Just go on the trail. We'll meet you guys at the lake, or we'll meet you on the trail somewhere.
Yeah.
He never responded, so I figured he was out of cell service.
Yeah. I don't think you have cell service at the trailhead.
No, you don't. Well, if you do, you have texting service if you have AT&T.
Oh, okay.
At the trailhead right there. But yeah, he didn't get it. But apparently him, Anthony, and Roe, once like 12:15 came around, they just went. They just left anyways.
Nice. Okay.
So they got on the trail and got a head start.
I was on the text thread, and you pretty much said, like, if I'm not there, like, you're like, I don't know what time I'm going to leave. I don't know if the secretary is going to have to work longer. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to get there at noon, but if I'm not there, like,
just go.
Yeah, just go.
Don't wait for us. Yeah. And so, yeah, everything kind of ended up working out. Lee drove up because I still had to come by the warehouse to pick up a new product that Morphlate is doing some R&D on.
Yes, that's exciting news too.
And then it went up from there, and we just figured we were so far behind. We ended up stopping for lunch as well on the way up. We're like, just no point in stressing out anymore. We're so far behind.
Right. So, sure. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we ended up getting on the trail about 3:30 p.m. at the gate, and it was just me and Lee.
Okay. Mm-hmm. With Lee there, I would say roughly 4 hours to get to camp.
It's not bad. I was thinking it was going to take his vehicle anywhere between 4 and 6 hours. And so it actually took us from 3:30, and I don't know if we can really count this as the start, because I went through the gate and charged up my lockers for gatekeeper, and I blew the fuse on my compressor.
Oh, dang it.
So we had to stop and spend 20 minutes diagnosing why the compressor wasn't working. And turns out it was a fuse. So I had to install a new fuse. In doing that, I dropped the new fuse in the dirt. We had to search for it in the dirt for a while. But once we got back up and running, made it through gatekeeper just fine. And then Lee came through, and we were so concerned about getting him set up properly for gatekeeper that he ended up getting like all hung up and like high centered on his diffs before gatekeeper on some of the rocks down there.
Oh yeah.
So I was like,
the rocks to get through the gate aren't a joke.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple, diff catchers after the gate as you're coming up to gatekeeper, and he got caught up on them. And so I was like, man, this is a great start here.
Yeah.
And so
I just want to say that I've never blown a fuse when I'm running my spool.
Yeah, there is that. I'm pretty sure I won't blow any fuses once I'm running e-lockers, but
maybe, yeah.
Like, I'm so done with my ARBs. I'm sick and tired of them right now.
But it's still an electronic connection.
It's an electronic connection, but you're not pulling 100 amps in order to use your lockers.
True.
You're only pulling like 2 amps, if that.
Oh, really?
to activate the lockers. Yeah, they're pretty low.
Okay.
It's like 18 gauge wiring to actuate the solenoids in there, or the electromagnets. So anyways, once we got Lee off of the diff rocks and my fuse issue fixed, we made it through gatekeeper in like 10 minutes, but like getting from the gate to the other side of gatekeeper took like 45 minutes.
Oh, geez.
Like, once we got Lee lined up for gatekeeper, he walked right through, no problems. It was really actually pretty impressive. And so got him through. So really we started the timer to get into the lake, like once we were through gatekeeper.
Wow.
Because there was an extra 45 minutes there, and really It only took us 10 minutes to run gatekeeper. I don't know. So anyways, From there to the lake, it took us about 3.5 hours.
Hey, okay.
So 4 hours and 15 minutes in total. Once we were done airing down and on the move.
That's pretty good.
Not bad. Really good considering I mean, he's just got a heavy rig that's not really built for rock crawling.
Nope.
And it did fantastically.
But there's only what, 3 real rock crawling sections on that trail?
Yeah.
How long is the trail?
6 miles.
6 miles and 3 sections that are are problematic for his rig.
Yeah. True. Very 100%. I mean, 4 if you count the hill after the bridge, but like the hill isn't really difficult. It's just difficult because you can't see over the crest of it. So you kind of have to stop and get out and take a look at what your line's going to be because you can't see anything as you're coming over the top.
There's a lot. I mean, I'm talking Gatekeeper. I'm talking the S-turn.
Yep.
And I'm talking, there's that section like almost at the lake.
Pretty much right at the lake,
right?
yeah.
I don't know if it has... That's its name.
Yeah.
That obstacle almost at the lake.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, I think there's that rocky section where the buggy lines are.
Yeah.
But going around that section's semi-difficult. Like there's a lot of sections that are like, yeah, that's not an easy, like I wouldn't take my Tacoma through there.
No.
Right. But it's easy for Bobcat and Kermit, but for Lee, you have to pay more attention.
You have to pay a lot more attention.
So there's a lot of sections that we take for granted that Lee's probably like, no, there's like 30 sections on that trail you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, his big thing is just ground clearance. With the stock radius arm setup on Land Cruisers on 80s.
Yeah, but he has the he has the radius arm setup, but he has the Delta arms.
True, but they stick down lower than his diff does.
Yes, they do.
So his ground clearance is just at a super minimum in an 80. But the nice thing about the 80 and Lee's 80 specifically is he did do the re-gear in the transfer case. So he is have a lower gear ratio in the transfer case, and he's triple, quadruple locked, whatever we've decided it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was locked in each axle, locked in the T case, right? Locked windows, locked doors. Yeah, he can lock the back thing, hatch or what. Yeah.
So he is on the drivetrain triple locked, right?
Yes.
So he had that going for him. He's on 35s. But he just doesn't have a lot of ground clearance with it. And so there's just a lot of little FU rocks on that trail because it's a really narrow trail and there's not a lot of maneuverability room. And so I was thinking we're going to be 4 to 6 hours, and it was 4 hours, 15 minutes. He didn't have any problems at all. He killed all the quote unquote 3 rock crawling sections.
Lee's a great driver.
He is. And it's been fun. We've talked about his growth in rock crawling in the past, and he's now kind of getting to the point where he knows enough now about his rig and tire placement and everything. He can feel when he's getting bound up. He can feel when he's going to be climbing or dropping in places. So he's starting to kind of get a good feel for his vehicle and not really need people to tell him lines all the time now.
Oh, cool.
Which is really kind of cool. He just needs someone to sit there and tell him, well, you're going to screw up. You're making a dumb choice.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons you guys probably were able to motor so quickly. Yeah. Because you didn't have to concern maybe you looked back and saw him and you're like, oh, he's fine.
Yep.
And you just kept going.
I would just kind of keep an eye on him in my mirrors. And if I saw him taking a line that was really going to get him in trouble, I would speak out. But otherwise, just kind of leaving him on his own. And he did great. Yeah.
And you guys, you don't need to hop out of the rig to talk to him. You can just message him on the ham.
On the ham.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I spoke to him and he said he's changing his ham setup.
Yep. I think so.
After this trip.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's not happy with that Bluetooth radio. So.
Yeah. I like what he's going to... So he's changing to another radio that's hard mounted and, has a hard connection with the microphone. But he's going to leave the Bluetooth one in there for APRS.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. Do you know of any other... is there another system or something that is just solo an APRS radio? There
is, but there's not any 50 watters. Anything that's a solo APRS radio is like max of 10 watts. So that's why I don't use them.
Yeah. Because it'd be really nice for me to have both frequencies on mine. Because I usually leave one of mine at APRS and the other one I communicate with, I leave it on, more or less I leave it on simplex so I can communicate with everybody. But if I had one more channel, like then I could do a repeater, simplex and APRS.
Yep.
So I was like, ooh, maybe just getting another like standalone APRS setup would be good.
And that's essentially what this radio has turned into for me. The Bluetooth radio is a standalone APRS thing. But then I will also use it at camp because I set it on the local repeater when I get to camp, and I can run a microphone for it off of my phone. And as long as I'm within 30 feet of my vehicle, I can talk to the repeater through my phone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's the nice feature about that Bluetooth radio. But yeah, mine has just pretty much become an APRS radio as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So he did fine in the S-turn?
Did great in the S-turn. No issues.
What about the ledge where you would high center yourself?
He went through that beautifully as well. We ended up sending him up on the rock before the ledge on the driver's side.
High driver?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And he got through that just fine.
Cool.
Didn't get hung up at all. I didn't get hung up either. I ended up taking the same line. I went high driver. Yeah, he cruised through all the rock crawling sections.
Okay.
He actually got hung up more in the other easier sections. And it was mainly just because he goes, yeah, I stopped paying attention for like a split second and I hit an FU diff rock and get hung up.
Yep. That's how it goes.
Yep. And that's what I take for granted now on 40s. I've got all this extra ground clearance under my axles. I just fall asleep and cruise the trail. But that's where he got hung up at. Otherwise, he did phenomenally until the obstacle right before the lake.
Okay. Before that, how were the tires?
Tires, the Yokohama tires, I am super, super impressed with.
Really?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
I had this kind of preconceived notion of what I thought they would behave like, and they exceeded it for sure.
Nice.
I was really impressed.
I drove Bobcat down here to the studio. And this was the first time I've driven on the Yokohamas, and I'm at 30 PSI. I want to do the chalk test to see where I kind of should be at, but I just threw them at 30 PSI and cruised down the freeway here, and I can tell that they're so much better of a ride than my old tires. And granted, like I looked at the date code of my old tires and they were 2011, right? So the tires that I had, the Toyotas were old, very worn down, and load range E. Yeah. These are brand new. They're 12th week of 22, right? Which is like a matter
last week.
A few weeks ago, or whatever, it was like March of this year that these tires were made, and they're load range D. But I can tell like there's bumps that on the freeway that I was trying to typically avoid, and I hit them this time, and I was like, ooh, like they're already so much better on the road. They're quieter. It's hard to tell for me. It's hard to compare apples to apples because my other tires were so much of a pineapple, or something. It was something completely off the wall, because it was just, I don't know. They're so worn down. They were
an
old.
Extreme. They're at one extreme of the spectrum.
They're super heavy for the rig. So, and now this is a brand new tire, lighter, less load rating and everything. So it's, I think I'm more in the middle of where I should be, and it's drastically different on the road, and I'm excited to try them off road here coming up soon. So you really liked them. What did you air down to? How did you run?
When I drove up to the lake, up to the trail, it was about 25 PSI. And here's what kind of really surprised me about the tires. One of the things that really surprised me was compared to the Patagonias at like 10% tread, the Yokohama tires at 100% tread are quieter on the road. Which surprised me. I thought for sure the Patagonias would be quieter just because they're a tighter tread pattern. Yeah. There's less voids between the tread blocks, and it was only at 10% tread. Okay. So the blocks aren't, hitting the road and giving that mud terrain hum. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Now that you bring that up, I did not notice that. I didn't it wasn't, I was just driving down the road. I didn't notice, these tires are way louder, or these are, I didn't necessarily notice that they were way quieter. I didn't this is drastically different, but I did but they're definitely not louder. Yeah. That, so that's a benefit. And for anybody that if you're like, okay, I know Yokohama, but I'm not exactly sure the tires, the Geolander MTs look similar to a Toyo MT or a Nitto MT or the old school BFG or Goodyear, the old
Goodyear.
school Goodyear MTs.
Yep.
It's sort of that style of MT. So if you're trying to figure out what that tire looks like, it looks similar to those.
Yep. And so that was good point bringing that up, because that was one of the reasons why I wanted to try the Geolander MTs, was because the tread pattern is that I call it the Toyo MT tread pattern, but really everybody's based their tread patterns off of the old Goodyear MT, right?
Dude,
the old original one.
Those tires, they were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were a great tire.
And I don't know why they stopped making them.
And they went to the Wrangler MT, the ones with Kevlar, the Goodyear Wranglers with Kevlar.
But they changed the pattern.
There was a massive change in pattern.
That pattern was outstanding.
It was outstanding, and I don't know why they did it. My only guess is that the patent was up on that pattern, and so other companies could now mimic it.
Maybe.
Because after they went to the Kevlar version, all these other companies started mimicking the old original tread pattern. And so it has that tread pattern. It's tighter in the middle, spread out in the lugs. I like that pattern for road usage because you air up the tire 30, 35 PSI, and the tire rides on that tighter tread blocks in the middle, which means you get better road performance. But I don't like the Toyos. The shoulder lugs on the Toyos are closer together than the Yokohamas. And the Toyos are not as deep of voids.
Yeah, these things are meaty.
I knew that they were meaty, and every time I look at them, I'm like, man, those are meaty.
Well,
man.
Morflate Ryan walked out, and I don't think he knew I drove Bobcat today. He immediately turned back into the studio here. He's like, dude, that looks good.
Yeah.
He smiled at him, and then he's like, you need to get him dirty, though.
Yeah.
It looks kind of funny.
Yeah.
But so I'll get him dirty here in a matter of hours heading up the hill. But okay. So phenomenal performance on Barrett.
Great performance on road going up to Barrett. Great performance on road coming back from Barrett. Great performance on the trail. So the softer compound kicked in amazingly.
What'd you air down to?
I aired down to 6.
Okay. That's about where you were with the Patagonias, right?
Yep.
Do you feel you need to go that low, or is that just a comfy spot?
I think I can go higher. I think it's a little too low. There was times when just traveling level, the tires were just fine, but as soon as I started climbing a rock or something, they just start folding almost immediately. And it's because I don't remember what the load rating was on the Patagonias, but I want to say they were E because they weren't folding as easily as these are.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm going to play with because here's a little foreshadowing, I guess, is I put internal bead locks in Bobcat. And we'll talk about that maybe later in the episode. But I am going from E's to D. And so I was running 5-6 PSI on the E's. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to go that low on these tires just because the load ratings are different.
Yeah.
But now that I have beadlocks, I'm going to play around with it.
Yeah.
The beadlock company suggests between 5 and 8.
I think that would be I think you're going to end up, because these tires they grab onto everything. I was really impressed. I think a lot of it is due to that softer compound. And the next big thing is just how meaty the lugs are.
Yeah.
So, they were grabbing onto everything. I don't think you're going to need to go. I think 8 to 10.
Yeah.
For rock
I think I'm going to start at 8, and then throughout the trail, I might try to drop it at different points depending on how the flow of what's going on. We'll see. Maybe I'll just put it at 8 to start and see how things lay out. But yeah, I'm going to definitely try and play with the pressure in the tires on our next trip.
Yeah, I think at 6 PSI in Kermit, it was too low for Barrett. There was times in Barrett where there's a couple of off-camber sections, and I could feel Kermit leaning more than typical because the sidewall is giving more.
Yeah.
And so I think in Kermit, I'm going to end up being around 7 to 8 PSI.
Yeah.
So But anyways, I started using, the way I run trails now, I'm just like, I don't want to stress out my drivetrain because I'm already stressing out the Toyota axles by running 40s on them. And so I just immediately, I lock the rear locker and I just keep it on the entire time.
That's what I do.
And then whenever I need to climb something, I'll turn on the front locker.
Okay.
So I started doing that on the trail, and it got to the point where I just stopped using the front locker at all because the tires weren't losing traction ever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, and I got through the S-turn section and the obstacle at the end without a front locker.
Wow. Nice.
They were getting that much traction.
Awesome. So
it was really impressive.
So what happened on the last obstacle?
Last obstacle, it just gets you crossed over, right?
This is the one where there's like a little hill climb. Mm-hmm. Is that before there's like a pinch rock?
It's before the pinch rock, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a little ledge climb. And then immediately after is a little granite section, and then there's a couple of pinch rocks.
Yeah, like V's.
A couple of V's back to back.
But they're off from each other. So
Yes.
It's not like one long, easy, like put your sidewalls on these ledges and drive. It's you hit one V and then you're off. You're not aligned for the next V. It's it's a fun little spot.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
It definitely gets you twisted up. And the way I go through that is I get through the first V and then essentially pivot myself. Boof myself. But there's nothing to boof around or boof off of. I find a way to spin my tires and slide down into the second V and to set up rather than just going straight through it.
Yeah, if I haven't done Barrett in a while, but if I think what I do is I go high passenger and into the first V, but that lines me up for the second V.
Yeah. And so, I got through it just fine. Lee going through it though was almost through. And then, as he was getting lined up for the second V, his front driver tires stopped turning.
No bang.
We didn't hear a bang. Yeah, we didn't hear like something that would have said, "Oh, that was bad."
Yeah.
It just stopped working.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so we're like, well, that's not good. Well, let's get you through here, and we'll figure it out. And he ended up getting through and got out to the lake. And the next morning, we disassembled his front axle or the driver's side knuckle, and his Birfield, the cage inside that holds all the bearings. The cage had broke.
Oh.
And so all of his bearings were down in the bottom of his knuckle for the Birfield.
That's not good.
No, not good at all, because it meant that he couldn't steer because the bearings were jamming up the knuckle, right?
Oh, yeah, but it was still able to rotate?
The tire was rotating. Yep.
That's good at least.
Yeah. But he wasn't getting any turning, any steering out of the driver's side.
Okay.
And no power to the driver's front tire.
Right.
So we were just kind of like sitting there. We're all trying to figure, hey, we think it's a Birfield. Hey, we think it's a hub. It could be an axle shaft. Here's how to test if it's an axle shaft, or here's how to test if it's a third member. Here's how to test. And so we're brainstorming all that with Anthony and Roe, because Hussman, Anthony, and Roe were at the lake waiting for us when we got there.
Right.
We're like, well, I think whatever it is, there's a couple things we can test for, but ultimately we have to open up the knuckle and pull everything out. And I think it's going to be pretty apparent quickly what it is. So,
the deeper and deeper you go. First, you got to take the hub off of that. Okay, that's either broken or not broken. Set it aside.
Yep.
Then you got to pull the diff out.
Yep.
Right? That's either broken or not broken. And then
we didn't pull the diff.
No, sorry, not diff. I meant Birfield.
The Birfield, yeah.
Pull we're going in through the knuckle, right?
Yep.
Then you pull the Birfield out, and that's either broken or not broken. But then when you pull that out, you're going to find out if the axle shaft's broken, right? Yep. So it's like this series of how the deeper and deeper you go, the more, obviously, the more you're going to find out.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So we're like, you know what? Let's just do that tomorrow, Saturday, because our plan was to go in Friday, have a whole day Saturday to hang out, and then come out Sunday.
Yeah.
And so we're like, let's just do it Saturday. So we hung out, had dinner Friday night, and then Saturday morning, we decided to go up to the plane crash while it was still cool.
Yes.
And then we'd work on the vehicle as it warms up.
Smart, because that hill climb to the plane crash is a grueler.
Yes, it is. And so we went and did that. It was fun being out at the plane crash with Lee and Hussman.
Okay.
Because both of them understand engineering components and engineering.
Yeah, sure.
And so they would pick up a thing off of the ground and be like, oh, look, here's a pneumatic actuator. I wonder what this was for. Hey, look it. This is a fuse block or a ground block, or hey, this is a part of the brake system, or hey, this is a hydraulic actuator, and all this other thing. So it was kind of cool being there with those two guys and just seeing how their minds pick out all the little stuff. Because I mean, it's a debris field, right?
Yeah, it really is.
There's not really solid parts of the plane left.
No, and the fuselage and cab, or like, I don't know what you call the body of an airplane it's not there.
No,
it's all been removed.
Yeah. So it was fun just kind of being with them and them picking out all the little engineering components on the ground and be like, oh, look at what this is. Hey, look what this is.
Hussman's been there before. I doubt Lee hasn't.
Nope.
I bet it was fun to see Lee's kids run around and have them see some things. And
well, it was a little bit of a hike for them.
Sure.
So once they got there, they started eating snacks and just kind of hung out and they weren't too impressed with the plane. I think because they were tired from the hike.
Well, and it's not much of a plane.
No, it's not.
So you go, oh, we're going to do a plane crash. You think it's going to be this like body and wings and engines, and it's a debris field. It's a pile of aluminum and wires. Yeah, pretty much. Kind of. And an engine block.
Yep. So hung out there for a little bit. While we were there, we had cell service.
Oh.
And so we texted our good friend Morgan at Sidetracked Off-Road to figure out if he had any FJ80 Birfields in stock.
Nice, okay.
Or axle shafts, or what he had in stock for FJ80 stuff. And he didn't really have much. He had a stock set of axles and Birfields, but Lee was like, no, I broke something. I need to upgrade it. I don't want to do stock anymore. I need to upgrade it to something else, either chromoly, RCV, 300M, something like that. And so I was like, hey, you know what, Morgan, let's order up the RCV kit, stock lengths on everything, and we'll just do that. And he said, okay, cool. So he ordered it, and we placed an order from there at the plane crash.
Wow.
With Morgan.
But he's not going to get them for a few days.
No, yeah, I wouldn't get them for a few days. But luckily, I have an FJ80 front axle sitting in my garage right now.
That you do. So did you cannibalized Gear Corey's axle?
Yep, we did.
How?
Once we got back home Sunday afternoon, we took apart Gear Wrench Corey's axle and threw the driver's side, which is the long shaft in Birfield, into Lee's axle, and then Lee took home the short side to do at his house.
Got it. So he drove out in 3-wheel drive?
Yes,
you
sir.
You just pulled the axle shaft, diff, and everything out, and then put it all back together, and he drove out. Yeah,
threw a rag in the inner axle seal, so it didn't just leak oil everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. And then he drove out in 3-wheel drive, and the drive out in 3-wheel drive went surprisingly well. Okay. Better than I thought it was going to. I thought for sure he was going to end in 2-wheel drive. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to jinx it. And it went surprisingly well. He killed all the rock crawling sections.
Nice.
Just fine. Didn't have any issues. I was really surprised at that. I thought for sure we were going to be pulling him through most of the sections. But there was a couple spots where he just got hung up. It just picked the wrong line for 3-wheel drive, and he was trying to crawl it rather than, in 3-wheel drive with that heavy of a vehicle, you kind of got to go with momentum.
A little bit, yeah.
And so there was a couple spots where we had to pull him loose. There's one hill where he got really jammed up, and we were trying to winch him forward, and it wasn't working. And turns out that his exhaust got caught between a rock and his crossmember, and so as we were trying to pull him forward, the rock was just digging into his exhaust, which would then smash against his crossmember, and he wasn't coming up over the rock.
Interesting.
And so we ended up having to reset and pull him backwards off of that and give him a different line. But that took a little while to figure out finally. So other than that kind of holdup. I mean, everything went smooth. It wasn't like a 6 hours of struggle.
Sure.
It was just 6 hours of going slow.
Yeah. Making sure he can get out.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's more of a, let's just make sure we can get through the trail instead of how fast can we get out of the trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the way out, all 3 rigs had issues.
All 3? There was 5 of you.
Sorry, Anthony and Roe, they only came in for the day on Friday, and they left Friday evening.
Okay.
So
all that was left was Lee, you, and Hussman.
Yep.
Okay.
So the 3 rigs all had issues on the way out.
Additional issues for Lee?
No, his main issue was just the Birfield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then my fan stopped working, my electric fan.
Really?
Yep. Again.
Okay.
And this time it was due to, originally we thought it was a bad relay, but while we were hooking in a new relay, one of the terminals fell apart. Like it snapped in half. And so I think
the terminal that you had attached it to the battery
into the relay.
Oh,
so it's a spade connector, a female spade connector.
Okay.
That's snapped in half. And so I'm just like, that was weird, but the only way that could have happened is if the spade connector was bent weird due to the wire being jammed in there weird for some reason.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's probably why it wasn't working, it was barely held on anymore. It just wasn't getting enough electricity. So we spent about an hour diagnosing and figuring that out and getting my rig back up and running with the fans working. And then Hussman lost his front brakes.
Really?
Yeah. So his brake line comes down to his axle, and there's a T right there. Then it goes out to either calipers, right? And the T was leaking for some reason.
Interesting. Okay.
And so we got down and tightened it, and he didn't want to rebleed his system because his brake system is a pain in the ass to bleed, apparently.
Oh.
You have to take off each wheel in order to bleed the calipers. Okay. Apparently, it's the way Willwood designed that specific caliper. And so...
so just the bleeder's in a bad spot.
It's in a bad spot to bleed it, yeah. And so he goes, know what? I still have my cutting brakes, so I'll just use the cutting brakes to brake if I ever need to. We were like, okay. So we just continued on down the trail. So Lee had his Birfield. I had a relay electrical terminal issue, and Hussman lost his brakes, but still had cutting brakes.
He still had rear brakes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his whole brake system, his pedal went to the floor.
So what is his cutting brake connect?
So his cutting brakes are further down the line from his brake pedal.
Right.
And so he was using the cutting brakes as the brakes for the car.
Right.
Yeah.
And those engage the rear brakes, right? Or
I think they engage left and right, don't they?
I don't know.
I don't know how he uses them.
I don't know how it's set up. Yeah.
But anyways, he was able to use his cutting brakes to stop, and his cutting brakes were actuating the rear calipers. He couldn't use his pedal to actuate the rear calipers. So.
Yeah. So it could be either or. I guess it could be right or left, or it could be forward and back.
Yeah.
And he was either pulling both levers or one lever.
Yeah.
But whatever it was, it got him out.
It got him off the trail just fine. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it was a great weekend. It was nice to hang out there with the secretary, wanting to be out on an off-roading trip, especially at Barrett Lake, my favorite trail, with Lee, with Hussman, with Lee's kids. It was a really nice weekend. But I now have another kind of slew of stuff to do to get ready for Rubithon.
Yeah.
My main wiring harness that I had to, when I relocated my batteries, I had to relocate all the engine power back to the rear of the vehicle.
Correct.
I ran that wire between the gas tank and the drive shaft.
Okay.
That wire bundle.
Yeah.
And now that the double cardan is on there, the drive shaft contacts the wiring harness bundle.
Oh, yeah, that ain't good.
Which is a really bad problem. And so I just kind of tucked it up out of the way and watched it and was easy on it as much as I could on Barrett. And so now before Rubithon, I have to find a new way to package that wiring harness, which means the only way that I can think about doing it without having to redo all the wiring is to cut a hole in the cross member and try and squeeze the wiring harness through the cross member and then up between the gas tank, the body, and my frame, which there's not a lot of space right there.
No, there's not.
So I messed around with that a little bit this morning. I got a hole cut in the cross member and was trying to feed the wires through up in that corner there, and they weren't going through. So I think I'm going to have to drop the gas tank like an inch to give enough space and then push the gas tank back up in there after the wires are seated up in that corner.
Wow. I would, if you're cutting the metal for the cross member and then pinching the wires with the gas tank to your body because there's not enough room in that area.
It's between the gas tank on one side, the body on top, and the frame on the other side. And so the gas tank is rounded on top. So there's this little space in that corner between the frame and the body. There's a little bit of space there where the wiring harness can lay in there.
Okay. Gotcha. So you got to drop it. So mainly you can make sure that it's coming all the way through the cross member.
Making sure it's coming through the cross member, not getting pinched on anything, and that it gets correctly seated up in that corner. Because I think right now, the way it's coming through is it's coming through on the side of the tank, smashed between the frame and the tank. And it's not getting all the way up into that space
right
up in the corner there.
Yeah, I just hope that when you lift the gas tank back up, that you're not...
That's what I'm going to have to watch out for.
Anything. Because you pinch something and you have a sharp edge of where you just cut through your cross member, you're just going to dig into that wiring harness also.
Exactly.
So,
yep. So that's what I have to do.
Dang.
And I'm supposed to leave for Rubithon in
6 hours?
about 6 hours, 7 hours.
Yeah.
So, and we still have one more recording to do today.
Yep.
So, it's going to be a very late, I think I'm going to get up to the spillway. Probably my guess is 2 to 3 a.m.
Serious?
Would be my guess. Yeah.
Dang. See, I would, at that point, I don't know if I'd just drive the next morning.
If I drive the next morning, I have to leave my house at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
at the latest. So it's either
but you get at least some sleep.
I'm gonna get the same amount of sleep either way.
Yeah, but you sleep in your bed.
That's true. There is that.
So
I don't know.
Do whatever you feel. So in regards to getting ready for Rubithon, I took my drive shaft out. I took my steering rod out that goes between the steering wheel and my power steering box.
Okay.
I took my wheels and tires off. There's something else that I think I did. Maybe that was that 4. I think I really had 4 items to do. Oh, and the hydraulic line.
Oh yeah.
And I blew that hydraulic line.
Yeah.
So I got hydraulic lines made locally, and that went fine. I just walked in and said, I need these made, and it worked out. And then I cut my steering shaft apart and lengthened it, and that was super easy. I talked to Hustle Nuts, and he gave me the perfect piece of pipe, and everything matched up and slid together and welded together totally fine. Cleaned it up and spray painted a piece of cake. It was harder to put it back into place than it was to make it a little longer. And it wasn't that difficult to put it back into place. The only hard part was I needed one end lifted so that it was better aligned to slide into the splines at the steering wheel end. Yeah. And I couldn't be in the cab and lifting it under the hood at the same time.
Yeah.
So I phoned a friend, and my old man came over and lifted that end. I got a brand new drive shaft made from, for the most part, a brand new drive shaft. They did a new U-joint at the pinion and a new tubing up for the main section. And then they said the double cardan looked good, and they just re-greased everything and set it all back together.
Nice.
The internal bead locks were a pain.
They suck to set up, man.
Once I understood how the flow and everything started going, it all started working. It went really quite easy. How long do you think it takes you to do the external bead lock setup on like the race lines that you have?
In order to
from taking the wheels off to putting the wheels back on.
Oh God. So for me, I ended up going down to a Les Schwab locally to have the Patagonias dismounted from the race lines.
Okay.
Because I tried for about 2 hours, and different methods. I tried ratchet strapping to a floor jack, and I broke 2 ratchet straps. I tried using the high lift method by, putting the high lift under your bumper and using the high lift to break the bead off of the wheel. That didn't work. And so eventually I called up the local Les Schwab and I was like, hey, I just need some tires and rims pulled apart. Can you guys do that? And I went down there and the store manager is actually a big time rock crawler. He's got a first gen, second gen 4Runner on 37s.
Sweet.
So we immediately hit it off. And they did the work and pulled them out and had them all done that day. I did 2 that day, 2 the next day. So if you take out that time that I spent running around figuring all that out,
okay,
it took me about 45 minutes per tire to mount and set up the external bead locks and reseat the beads.
Okay,
and put them on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm not terribly far behind you.
Okay.
But there was a massive learning curve on setting up these internal bead locks. I got some internal air locks. That's the brand name. A lot of people say Ston. Ston, I don't think makes them anymore.
No,
now
they were kind of the originals.
Yeah,
though.
now it's a company called Coyote, I think, bought that version. And then there's another guy out of Michigan, Sean, who makes the internal airlock, and I chose to try that version out. Pretty much all it is a motorcycle inner tube and this cover that goes over it that holds the inner tube flatter so it doesn't get completely ballooned out and causes the inner tube to get wider to press against your inner and outer beads.
Nice.
So I mean the concept's really easy, but I had to now dismount, take off all my tires, and I had, I don't have a bead locks on those, so I had to take them up to a place to get the tires and wheels removed. I had them just take the tires, the old tires. I didn't want them back, didn't want to use them. I had them dispose of them. So I just brought the rims back.
Okay.
And then it took me a long time to put the back beads on.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Like I tried soap and water and slamming it in and jumping on it and twisting and turning. And it took a long time.
Interesting.
I ended up using my cherry picker and put it over the tire and was pulling the rim
up through it.
Jeez. Like it was. So hindsight, I probably just should have taken the tires also up to I just lost the name. I went to a place up in Auburn they were phenomenal. Hands down. It starts with an S. Schultz's Tire and Auto Service up in Auburn.
Okay.
Outstanding service. I called them up to kind of talk to them about what I was doing it, and the guy has either done these before or is a rock crawler or something along those lines, and so he knew what I was trying to do.
Okay.
Right. And so I talked to him and I said, hey, I just need the wheels pulled off. I'm going to take them back. I'm going to put the bead on. I'm going to put all the internal works in, and then I'd like to bring that back up to you, and then you can set the other bead on there because I'm not going to be able to push that on. And he was like, cool. And on my end, all it really took was to put the wheel in the tire. Well, first you have to drill a hole.
Yep.
A 5/16 hole, pretty much 180 degrees across from the original valve stem. And you only do it there for balance purposes.
Okay.
So just a little bit of measuring, figured that out. That was pretty easy. And then you put the wheel in the tire. And then I found that some 2x4s, I stuck some 2x4s up on edge.
Okay.
And then put the tire on the 2x4s, but the rim hung dangled down and was on the ground. And that gave me enough room to pretty much do everything. And so I pushed the cover, the locking cover over the top. Then you push the tube over the, on the inside of the cover, but over the rim. And then make sure that you lined up the stem and set that in. And then you push the back of the locking cover in.
Okay.
And then I took those just like that. I took them back up to Schultz's and they popped the beads on.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I told them, don't air anything up. I have some weird air inflation instructions that I have to do.
Yeah.
Like you have to air the inner tube up to 15 and then pull the valve stem. You have to pull the valve stem of the tire.
Yeah.
Then pull the valve. So then you air up the tube to 15, pull the valve stem, 20, pull the valve stem, 30, pull the valve stem, and then you air it up to 30 again. And then you leave it at 30. And then depending on how fast or what you want the air to flow in and out of your tires, you fluctuate the inner airlock's PSI.
Yeah.
But I drove it down here today. I have one tire that was harder to inflate. So I'm actually curious about how the Morphlate will work on this setup.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because it's somewhat restrictive on airflow in and out.
Yeah.
Because now I have there's another layer locking the tire on. The air can still sort of pass by. So I'm kind of,
it'll be interesting to hear and find out.
Takes longer or shorter or, if it air down's longer or air up longer is really kind of the question if that's going to happen. But, I'm still getting a weird vibration.
Yeah.
I'm brand new drive shaft.
Yep.
I'm still
brand new tires.
Yeah, brand new tires. Granted, the tires are not balanced.
So,
but I don't think they need to be. They feel really good on the freeway.
I'm a stout believer in running balancing beads. And I run 10 to 12 ounces per 40-inch tire. And I did not put beads in these tires because I dumped a lot of them out in my garage when I was pulling the Patagonias apart. And so I ordered new beads, but they didn't come in before the Barrett trip, and the rig drives smooth on the road. I don't think they need balancing.
Yeah, I was considering doing balancing beads, but then I got to thinking, I'm like, I don't know how to put them in.
Yeah, you'd have to break a bead.
I'd have to break a bead
Yeah.
and reach in there somehow and throw them past the inner airlock system because I can't put them through the valve stem.
No.
Because there's...
the inner tube is blocking your valve stem
blocking everything.
Yeah.
So today was the first drive in Bobcat since I put the new tires and got everything back together.
I have an idea.
And it went smooth. It drove smooth.
Yeah. We can slash a hole in your sidewall, throw the bag in there, and then patch it with a glue tread.
Yeah, I think that would definitely work. But I don't know if it's needed. I mean, I think they drive great.
They're driving great. I'm curious to see if they continue driving great as I chunk them and abuse them because I'm rough on tires.
Yeah. So Bobcat is ready. I'm still getting that vibration, so I'm gonna tow. I'm gonna tow up to Rubithon, and
that vibration is weird, man. With a new drive shaft, your pinion angle is set properly.
Yeah.
It might be redid the transfer case. Did you check the rear pinion net? I know that you checked it before.
It was still staked.
Okay, it's still staked in spot. So
no, I mean, if it's backed off but stopped at the stake location, it's possible.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is a bent flange on one of your rear axles. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. That would be causing
the pinion nut or the drive shaft flange on the axle on the third member.
No, your axle shaft flange because they're semi-float. That's the only thing I can think of is that you might have a bent flange in the rear. You've changed everything else and you're still getting the same vibration.
It's been so long now. We're over a year since I've been trying to figure this out. I think we've changed the bearings in the axles on the axle.
That's right, because you did it when you did the disc brake conversion. So you have new bearings in there. It's not the wheel bearings.
It's not a wheel bearing. No. I've changed the third members. I think I can't remember if I changed the drive shafts. Maybe there's a drive shaft that's actually bent.
You mean an axle shaft?
Axle shaft.
Yeah. I would think that you would have caught that, though, when you pulled the axle shafts to do the...
Yeah, but if it's like
bearing and everything.
Minor.
Yeah, true.
Because it only happens now it's happening at... like 50 to 55 miles an hour, where
if you had
Moab, it was happening at like 65.
If you had a bent axle shaft, though, wouldn't you be blowing seals? The inner seals, the axle seals?
Maybe. Yeah,
like, I don't know. I think you've got a bent flange. That's the only thing it could be.
I don't know what it is. So I took it up to about 65 and I put it in neutral, and it was still happening. Which I don't know if that removes any of the drivetrain possibilities.
It removes up to your transmission. I mean,
maybe
between the engine and transmission.
Maybe I need to get my front drive shaft properly balanced.
But you said you've driven without the front drive shaft and it was still...
No, I can't. Without the front. No, sorry. I'm saying try to remove the drivetrain from powering the rear axle.
Gotcha. So you need to balance your front so you can drive on front wheel drive
and see if that somehow...
I wonder if my front drive shaft would work in there, because mine's balanced well. I can do 50, 60 on the freeway in 4-wheel drive.
Maybe. Yeah, we can try it one day.
Yeah.
Mine's definitely not.
Yeah.
Mine's like 25 and I'm vibrating like crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if any, and I was telling you earlier that I might try to change out the whole rear axle.
Yeah.
Before Marlin Corolla Roundup and see if I can figure this out.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm open from like, it might be a weird crankshaft pulley and I'm getting a vibration from the engine to like, it could be a flange in the rear axle and I'm having all these problems. You know,
interesting.
And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's continuously getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's weird.
Definitely not the drive shaft.
Not the drive shaft. Not your transfer case. Yeah. I don't know.
It's probably not a wheel bearing and it's probably not a third member.
Yeah.
Because I've changed third members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I changed
you destroyed that third member out on Fordyce.
Well, yeah. So I took out the spool that's in there and I put in my old Detroit and then I broke it and then I put back in the spool.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm at a loss. I don't know what it could be.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I don't know. The only other thing I'm kind of think is because my front drive shaft is not balanced at all.
That you're getting...
Maybe it's turning at higher speeds, but not really turning when I'm driving slow.
Yeah.
It's getting some residual, thing. And it's just...
Could be.
Turning, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that... Because my hubs
But you said that you've driven without the front drive shaft on it.
Yeah, probably.
Still we're getting
I need to just do it again to figure it out, but I don't know. You have 214s laying around. I'm driving home, so pull it out real quick.
I don't think we do. We've got 9/16ths. So
that'll work.
Yeah.
I was considering trying to pull the hubs to make sure that they were fully unlocked also.
That'd be interesting. Just run without the hubs on there too.
Just at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's weird. It's an interesting conundrum. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, now it's just to the point where I'm just blindly replacing parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's sort of like, I'll just change out the whole rear axle and see if that is the thing. Like something in the rear axle.
Yeah.
Does that solve it?
Yeah.
If it does, then yay, I can figure, like now I can dissect the rear axle.
Do you have Samantha's rear axle ready to go?
I was thinking about that.
Could you just throw Samantha's rear axle in for Marlin Crawler Roundup? And
yes and no.
Because it's an E-locker, huh?
Yes. I could throw it in just to drive it around town and see if it vibrates, but it doesn't have perches on it and it doesn't have shock towers on it.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
At least you'll be at Rubithon.
I might have a spare housing that I might be able to use, but the thing is, then I'd have to use. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. I'm gonna make it to Rubithon.
Yeah,
whether one way or another.
Yeah,
but
Well, cool. I think we're going to have a really fun group for Rubithon.
Oh, we are. Definitely.
We've got Mike and Debbie Poole.
Okay.
Are going to be joining us. Mike Smith.
Debbie Poole changed his PayPal.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
So is he now Kevin Poole again?
He is.
Okay. Darn.
Yeah, him and Austin were going back and forth on that a little bit. But we just have to remember that for when we do next month's giveaway that he's not an FNG.
That's right. Yeah. We'll
changed in the middle of a month,
Yeah, we'll figure that out. So we're going to have Mike Smith, Kevin Poole. I believe Rod Littleton is also going to be on our run.
He is.
We've got the Power Tank guys. Yep. Power Tank Steve, Power Tank Tyler.
Is Tyler coming?
That's a good question. He usually does.
Okay, cool. I need to bring some hot sauce then.
Yeah, you do. Let's see. Scott, you'll really like Scott. He's got a beautiful first gen 4Runner. He's done a lot of really cool work with it. Blue.
Oh.
Yeah. Kevin in the red old Power Tank 4Runner. He's not going to be there.
Oh, bummer.
And then I just learned recently that Dimitri is going to join us.
Yep.
On this trip too in the Moscow Mule.
In the Moscow Mule. I'm excited to see that thing wheel.
I'm going to try and find somebody to drive Kermit through the trail so that I can just walk alongside the mule and watch that thing work through the trail. Cause I really want to see how that rear suspension behaves.
Yeah, me too.
I really want to watch it and see how it does. So yeah,
I'm interested to see that work for sure. Dimitri and I were talking, and he's like, are you doing Rubithon? I was like, yeah. He's like, when are you going in? I'm like, early Thursday, where I'm in the mini truck 4Runner run. That's the one I'm signed up for. And he's like, I don't think I signed up for anything. I'm like, if you signed up for Rubithon, I think you have to sign up in an event.
Yeah. In
a run, and he's like, I don't know if I did, and I'm like, he's like, can I just join you? Like, I'm okay with it, but I'm not the organizer or runner of this event. And I was like, you should contact Scott. Here's his email. This is all my only point of contact I have for him. So I don't know if he emailed him or not, but he's going to show up. And do our run with us.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
So anyways,
if Scott saw his rig, he'll be like, yeah, come on.
Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I think we're going to have a really fun time. We've got a really good group, I think, this year. We had a great group last year too, to make it all the way into the Springs. I don't think without any issues, or I don't think with having any issues.
We should be able to motor pretty good.
Yep. And then, we'll get all day Friday to just kind of hang out and do whatever we want. And then Saturday is kind of the activity day. Where they do cornhole, they've got horseshoes, they've got other stuff going. They have the RC car competitions.
Oh, so I should bring my RC?
Enter the competition for sure.
Cool.
Usually, Tour Guide Taco's kids win it each year.
Oh, that's right. He's running it, isn't he?
Yeah, he runs it and judges the competition, and his kids win it each time.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. I'll bring my RC car then.
Yeah. Bring your RC car. But that's the day that you and I will kind of be hanging out in the Springs. And so we'll have our rigs down in the Springs somewhere as well. We'll have Bobcat and Kermit down there. Probably with Moscow Mule would be my guess too.
Yeah.
We'll
be showing off our new tires.
Showing off the new tires. We got some Yokohama swag for everybody. So stop by if you're going to be there. It's going to be a really fun weekend. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty excited too. I'm excited to try the tires out. I'm excited to play with those inner airlocks and figure that out and see how those work. And I'm excited for the event. I mean, cool. Cruise Moab TLCA. Did I say it right this time?
Yep.
Cruise Moab TLCA is a phenomenal event, a lot of fun, and I can only imagine. This is my first time doing Rubithon, so I can just imagine how much fun we're going to have. So
yep. It's really cool. We get a lot more of the local Land Cruiser vendors.
Oh, cool.
There. So like we get Mud Rack comes out, Metal Tech comes out, George from Valley Hybrids comes out.
I need to talk to him.
Yeah, I know. We need to get him dialed in.
Yeah.
And there's a few others. So their Profit Cruisers, I believe, comes out.
Really? They're out of like Utah, aren't they?
No, yeah, that's correct. They're out at Moab. There was one other Yoda Man. Larry.
Oh, does
from
he?
Yoda Man comes out. Cool. Yeah, he's a big supporter of it. He usually runs drag and repairs everybody.
Yeah.
So and then Stellar Built's going to be out there this year. It's going to be a really fun time, I think. out at
Morphlate
Rubithon.
going to have a booth?
Nope, we're not doing a booth, but we'll be there, and I'll have Morphlate on display and be able to answer questions. We have a lot of stuff in the raffle, though.
Can Morphlate bring a canopy?
Probably. Can we carry it in Bobcat?
Probably.
Okay, cool. Then, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to try to figure out if we could bring... I have just a generic random canopy, but I think it'd be nicer to have the Morphlate one out there.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, let's do it. We can bring the Morphlate canopy out for sure and set it up in the spring. So I'm sure Ross would let us do that.
Yeah, cool.
So, cool. Yeah, man, that's all I got for this episode. I'm excited to hit Rubithon. I need to get this wiring harness figured out before leaving. So
yes, and I have all kinds of packing to do.
I still have to do all my packing. I have to do my food buy. I've got to set up all my... I have everything to do. I haven't done anything to get ready for Rubithon yet.
Yeah. So I'm almost there. Except that my rig is done.
Nice.
So
lucky you.
Yeah.
Nah, cool, man. Anything else for this episode?
I think that's it. If anybody has any suggestions or ideas or thoughts on my vibration issue, you can get a hold of me at jimmy@snailtrail4x4.com. Mm-hmm. You can find Tyler at snailtrail4x4.com. Tyler's also on Instagram, 4x4 Toyota Tyler. I'm snailtrail4x4. And you can always phone in at 916-345-4744.
I like it. I like it a lot. Picasso. With that, Jimmy, any final words for everybody?
I'm excited to see these Yokohama tires flex.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling. I got one for you.
No, I got one for you.
No, I got one. I got one for you.
Okay. What's yours?
I don't know if we'll be able to say this, so you should probably say yours too. But what do you call a bad...
That's pretty bad.
Come on.
That's pretty good. That just makes me wince.
Okay, what's your joke? Just in case we can't air that one.
Where do pirates buy their hooks?
Target.
No, not bad. That's not it, though. At the second-hand store.
That's better. Okay.